Welcome, dear listeners. Tonight, let your thoughts drift gently as we take you on a peaceful journey. This is a space for calm, for quiet moments, and for the kind of stories that settle your heart and slow your breath. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes if you wish, and allow the world to soften around you. Now, let's begin with tonight's story. Today's story is titled, The Guardian of Hazel: The Rise and Fall of the Magic. Chapter 1, The Ashes Beneath the Manor. In the forgotten corner of a sunless estate, buried deep within the edges of the Lorthwine forest, lived a girl named Elowen Ashbrook. She was not born in rags or raised in ruin, but after the slow death of her father Lord Cedric Ashbrook and the chilling arrival of her stepmother Lady Viralia, Elowen's world unraveled thread by thread. The grand Ashbrook Manor, once filled with music and the scent of summer lilies, now echoed with cold silence and the smell of burnt cedar. The halls were dimmed not only by the dusty velvet drapes but by the weight of grief and something unspoken, a shadow that loomed larger than morning. Elowen spent her days laboring beneath the stone arches of the house she once freely roamed. Her hands, once soft from harp strings and ink-stained pages, were now calloused and smeared with ash and soap. Her only companions were the fading portraits on the walls and the echo of her mother's lullabies that clung faintly to her memory like dew to morning grass. Lady Viralia, a woman cloaked in elegance and venom, had quickly sold most of the estate's valuables. Paintings vanished from walls, fine porcelain disappeared from cabinets, and Elowen's father's cherished books began to leave the shelves, sold off, piece by piece, in exchange for coin. But no transaction cut deeper than the disappearance of her mother's golden locket, stolen from beneath her pillow. Elowen had never confronted Viralia, but the look in her stepmother's green eyes, sharp as broken glass, was enough to silence any accusation. Viralia's two daughters, Isolde and Myrian, were as different from Elowen as winter is from spring. Isolde, the elder, wore cruelty like a velvet cape. She would mock Elowen's torn dresses and whisper insults that dripped with sugar. Myrian was quieter, but no less dangerous, always watching with eyes like polished obsidian. At night, Elowen would sit beneath the twisted hazel tree in the overgrown garden, her only place of peace. The branches above whispered secrets in the wind, and she often imagined that the tree could speak. As a child, she once believed it held the spirit of her mother. Now, it simply stood as her last friend. And then, there was Thistle, a wiry black dog with mismatched eyes and a gait that hinted at old injuries. He had appeared one stormy evening, soaked to the bone, limping and growling at Viralia's carriage. Elowen had taken him in, named him after the only wildflower that still bloomed in the manor's broken garden. From that moment on, Thistle never left her side. One evening, as thunder rolled above the forest and the wind lashed against the broken window panes, Elowen sat huddled in the attic, wrapping her shawl tighter around her thin frame. Her body ached, her feet raw, and her heart numb. She heard the howling wind through the eaves and thought she could almost hear her father's voice calling through the storm. It was then that something strange stirred. A flicker. A glimmer. The flame of a candle that hadn't been lit. A breeze that didn't come from outside. The air thickened, and the room grew quiet, not just silent, but still, as if even the dust had paused in midair. Then came the voice. Soft. Ancient. Not frightening, but certain. You are not forgotten, child of Ashbrook. Eloan's breath hitched. She turned, but no one was there. Only Thistle, now alert and growling lowly at the darkness in the corner of the attic. And then, like moonlight weaving through mist, a figure stepped forward, not through the door, but from the very shadows themselves. A woman in silver, hair flowing like water, eyes the color of starlight. The world has stolen much from you, the spirit said, but some magic remembers your name. Eloan opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She was frozen between disbelief and awe. I come with a gift. One bound not by desire, but by destiny. The woman raised a hand, and in her palm appeared a small seed, dull, brown, and ordinary. But when it fell to the attic floor, it burst into light and smoke. In its place grew a delicate stem of hazel, impossibly sprouting in the stone. Plant this beneath the old hazel tree, she whispered, and wait for the third moon's rise. You will not be alone. With that, the spirit vanished, leaving only silence, the soft glow of the hazel stem, and the echo of something ancient rekindled inside Eloan, hope. Chapter 2, Whispers Beneath the Hazel Tree. Eloan stood before the ancient hazel tree, the moonlight spilling over its branches like liquid silver. The forest behind the manor had never felt quite safe, but tonight, it felt still. Not silent in a foreboding way, but hushed, like the world was holding its breath. She cradled the stem, now glowing faintly from within, in her hands. It was warm, pulsing softly, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The spirit's words echoed in her mind, plant this beneath the old hazel tree, and wait for the third moon's rise. She knelt, brushing aside leaves and old moss until her fingers hit the cold soil. Thistle circled her warily, his ears perked, nose twitching. With steady hands, Eloan pressed the stem into the earth. As she did, the ground seemed to hum. A gentle wind rose from nowhere, sweeping her hair into her face and stirring the branches above. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Thistle whimpered, and Eloan whispered softly, "It's all right. I think it's beginning." But what was it? She didn't know. All she had was the whisper of magic and a seed of hope. The next few days passed slowly. The manor grew colder. The windows frosted over early that year, and the fires were seldom lit. Virilia claimed there wasn't enough wood to waste on servant rooms. Eloan had taken to sleeping in the kitchen, curled near the oven when she could manage it, with Thistle curled protectively around her legs. Isolde and Myrian grew bolder. They now paraded about the halls in new gowns bought with coin from the latest auction, the family's silver, now gone. Eloan said nothing. What could she say? She had no power, no voice, and no proof. But each night, she would return to the hazel tree. And something strange began to happen. The The soil around it shimmered faintly under moonlight. The bark, once gnarled and gray, had taken on a faint reddish hue. And the air smelled of wildflowers, even in the dead of winter. On the third night, as promised, the third moon rose pale blue and full. Eloin stood once more beneath the tree. A cold wind coiled around her ankles, but her heart thudded with heat. Thistle barked once sharp, excited, and then froze. From the base of the tree, where the seed had been planted, light began to spill upward. First a glimmer, then a slow, pulsing stream, like sap made of starlight. The trunk opened, not cracked, not broken, but gently unfolded like a door of bark and leaf. From within stepped a woman. Not the spirit from before, but someone different. She was younger, with eyes like candlelight and robes stitched from fog. In her hands, she held a bundle wrapped in ivy. "Are you ready?" she asked. Eloin's voice caught. "For what?" The woman smiled, and her breath came out like song. "To be seen." She unfurled the bundle. Inside lay a gown unlike anything Eloin had ever imagined, not spun of thread, but of woven twilight and mist. Its fabric shimmered in shades of moonlight, and tiny jewels glittered like drops of dew. Next to it rested slippers of softest velvet and a cloak of midnight blue, lined with fur from no creature of this world. "And this," the woman added, drawing a delicate vial from beneath her robes, "is for your heart." Inside the vial was not liquid, but light. Pure, golden, and warm. "What is it?" Eloin whispered. "Courage." The woman handed it to her, and as Eloin touched it, a warmth rushed through her veins like laughter she'd forgotten how to feel. "There is a ball," the woman continued, "at the palace beyond the river. Tonight. Go. You have until the moon begins to fall. But listen well, Eloin Ashbrook, do not let your fear be louder than your voice." Eloin nodded, stunned and breathless. As she dressed, the gown adjusted to her form like a second skin. Her tangled hair coiled into soft curls, her skin warmed with the glow of light. She felt herself. But more. As if the version of her she had buried long ago was rising again, blooming like a flower in frost. With one last nod to the spirit woman, she stepped away from the tree. And the world shifted. The wind softened. The stars sparkled more brightly. And a path previously invisible lit up before her, leading out of the forest. Thistle barked once, as if to say go, and Eloin obeyed. She didn't know what would happen next. But for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid. She was going to be seen. Chapter 3, The Palace of Lanterns. The path shimmered like moonlight poured onto earth. It wound gently through the ancient forest, where trees leaned in reverence and the wind carried no chill, only whispers of old magic. Each step Eloin took was light, as though the ground itself lifted her forward. She wore the cloak tightly around her shoulders, more to steady her nerves than to fend off the cold. The bottle of golden light, her vial of courage, rested gently against her chest, pulsing in quiet rhythm with her breath. Ahead, the forest broke. And there, beyond a mist-laced meadow, rose the palace. It wasn't as Eloan had imagined it as a child. It wasn't cold marble or blinding crystal. Instead, it stood tall and luminous, woven from white stone and silver wood, with lanterns suspended in the air like floating stars. Music drifted from within, soft at first, then rising with every step closer. It sounded like laughter, like light footsteps on stone, like memories of joy. Eloan paused at the great arched bridge that spanned the Silveroon River. Her reflection stared back from the waters, this new version of herself, draped in elegance, eyes wide not with fear but awe. "You can turn back," a voice whispered in the wind. "Or you can be known." She walked forward. The ballroom was a blaze of life. Chandelier lit, it pulsed with warmth and rhythm. Nobles twirled in pairs, their gowns sweeping like painted waves, and music swelled from a corner where minstrels played on golden strings. Servants floated through the crowd with silver trays and gentle bows. No one knew her name. And yet every eye found her. Gasps whispered through the room like a secret passed from guest to guest. A woman in twilight silk. Hair the color of dusk, eyes bright with something unnameable, hope, wonder, something ancient. She did not sparkle like a diamond, nor shine like gold. She glowed. Eloan stood just inside the entrance, nerves tightening her hands into fists. She clutched her small velvet pouch, heart thudding. Then came the voice. "I've never seen you before." She turned. He was not what the stories said. No golden armor or flowing cape. No practiced smirk or prince-like arrogance. Just a young man with a crooked smile, dressed in royal navy, and eyes piercing, observant, kind. "That's likely because I've never been invited," she replied, surprising herself. He laughed. Not politely. Genuinely. "Then allow me to be the first to welcome you." He offered his hand. She hesitated, then placed hers in his. The world turned. They danced not with practiced formality, but with joy. With curiosity. He asked her name, she smiled and told him it wasn't important. He asked where she came from, she answered, "Somewhere I don't belong." And yet, with him, she did. They danced 2 songs. Then 3. The world shrank until it was just their shared breath and laughter between the notes. He introduced himself not as Prince Theron of Eloindel, but simply Theron. As if he wanted, for one night, to be free of titles, just as she wanted to be free of history. Their conversation veered between poetry, garden constellations, and how she liked her tea, with 3 drops of honey, never more. He remembered that. But somewhere beneath the music, a distant bell began to toll. Eloan's heart skipped. Midnight was approaching. She hadn't realized how fast time was slipping, how her magic might, at any moment, unravel. Theron must have seen the flicker of panic in her eyes. Is something wrong? She shook her head. I need to go. Wait, he reached for her hand again, but she pulled away. Thank you, she whispered. For tonight. For seeing me. She turned, cloak flaring behind her, and ran. Through the crowded halls. Down the stairs. Across the marble corridor, where guards moved aside instinctively. One slipper caught on the edge of a stair. It slipped. She didn't stop. The cloak unraveled as she crossed the bridge. Her gown dimmed, softening into gray. The stars blinked, and the magic pulled back like tide from shore. She collapsed at the edge of the hazel tree, breathless. Thistle was waiting, as if he had been watching the sky. I was seen, she whispered to him, the corner of her lips trembling. I was really seen. She held her remaining slipper to her chest and closed her eyes. Behind her, back at the palace, a young prince held the lost slipper in his hands, staring at the door she'd vanished through, wondering who the girl in twilight had been. And why his heart felt like it had recognized her from the moment she smiled. Chapter 4, The Slipper and the Silence. The frost had crept deeper into Ashbrook Manor. By morning, the magic was gone. Eloan awoke beneath the hazel tree, wrapped in nothing more than her old patchwork shawl. The cloak of midnight blue had vanished. The gown of moonlight was no more. And on her feet only one slipper remained. The other lay far behind, abandoned on palace steps now polished with mystery. Thistle whined and nudged her shoulder. She sat up slowly, wincing as the cold gnawed at her skin, her muscles stiff from the night air. The slipper glinted weakly in her lap, the last fragment of a dream. But was it a dream? Her body remembered the music. Her heart still echoed with Theron's laugh. I was really seen. And now, no one in this house would ever know. Inside the manor, the routine resumed. The clang of pots, the sneering voices of Isolde and Myrian, and the ever-watchful green eyes of Lady Virilia. Eloan returned to her role without a word, hiding the slipper beneath the floorboard beneath her bed, a secret kept warm with memory. Far across the woods, the palace was in uproar. Prince Theron stood in the royal atrium, gripping the delicate glass slipper in both hands. It was impossibly small, impossibly intricate. Too refined for any noblewoman he had ever known. He replayed the night over and over, the way her eyes had brightened at talk of garden stars, the slight shake in her voice as she whispered goodbye. She had left without name, without warning, and without a trace, except this. His father, King Aldrich, was skeptical. A woman who vanishes at midnight. Magic vanishes at midnight, son. Then perhaps she was magic, Theron had answered, and the court had fallen silent. There was only one option. "We'll search," he declared. "Every village, every town, every estate. She's out there. And this slipper will find her." Thus began the quest. The prince, disguised in simple garments, traveled by day and by candlelight. From gilded mansions to crooked farms, he arrived with guards and trumpets, or sometimes alone, asking only one question: "May I try this on someone in your household?" Hundreds of feet. None matched. Some women lied and tried to force it. One even sliced her heel to fit. But Theron knew. Her footsteps still lived in his mind. Her voice lingered like an echo in a hall of silence. He would know the moment the shoe met the right sole. Back at Ashbrook Manor, rumors reached even the cold kitchen hearth. A prince, going house to house. Scoffed Myrian. Must be madness. Or desperation, said Isolde. He's probably fallen for some street performer. Virilia was quiet. But Eloan's hands trembled slightly as she scrubbed the floor. Each word was a stone in her chest. Could it be true? Could he really be searching? She dared not hope. Because hope, once betrayed, cuts deeper than any blade. That night, she returned to the hazel tree. She sat in the silence, one slipper in her lap, and whispered to the wind. "If I am meant to be found, let him see me." The tree didn't answer. But a single blossom opened on its bare branch, delicate and white against the winter night. And far away, Theron stopped on a frozen road, feeling something stir in his chest. A pull. A direction. A path back to the girl in twilight silk. Type hoi 5 kong on ban. Hoi sao min cho kan Theron den tan na Eloan, man Thursday gia kin dien, en hung se them by cu twist tin te na. Men dam bao chat luon kotik x10 luon smiling face with sunglasses sparkles. Chapter 5, Ashes and Revelation. The knock came early. It wasn't the usual rhythm of the merchant tapping with frozen fingers or the taxman rapping with entitlement. No, this was deliberate. Confident. One knock. Then another. Followed by silence. Eloan stood motionless in the scullery, her hands dripping soap into murky water, her breath frozen before her lips. In the grand foyer, Lady Virilia swept to the door, her satin gown rustling with controlled grace. She opened it to find a young man modestly dressed, with snow on his shoulders and quiet determination in his eyes. Behind him stood two royal guards in the colors of the House of Eloindel. He bore no visible crown, no formal trumpets. Only a small velvet box cradled in his hands, reverently, as if it held something far more delicate than glass. "Good morning," the stranger said, his voice calm and polite. "I come on behalf of the crown." Lady Virilia arched a painted brow. "And what business brings the prince's errand boy to our humble home?" The young man smiled. I am no errand boy, milady. He stepped forward. I am Prince Theron of Illoindel. The air in the room seemed to contract. Behind her, Isolde dropped a teacup, which shattered against the marble tile. Myrian sucked in a sharp breath. Eloin, from the hallway shadows, gripped the edge of the doorframe so tightly her knuckles turned white. Viralia recovered quickly, offering a low curtsy. Your Highness, she said smoothly. What an honor. Theron nodded once. I seek a young woman. She came to the winter ball 3 nights ago and left before midnight. This slipper, he opened the velvet box with a soft snap, is all that remains of her. I am searching until I find the one it fits. Well. Viralia laughed. You've come to the right place. My daughters would never miss a ball. She turned sharply. Girls, present yourselves. Isolde and Myrian stumbled into the room, all grace forgotten. Their faces were powdered pale, cheeks painted too red, eyes wide with greed. They curtsied deeply, nearly tripping over each other. Shall we begin? Viralia asked sweetly. Theron sat near the hearth, beckoning the guards forward. One held a cushioned stool. The other held the slipper. Theron watched with careful eyes. Isolde went first. She yanked her boot off, nearly flinging it across the room, and stuffed her foot into the glass slipper with such force that the edges of the glass bit into her skin. Almost, there, she hissed through gritted teeth. But no amount of pushing could hide the truth. The slipper didn't fit. Myrian followed, her approach subtler. She pretended disinterest, then tried to slide her foot in delicately. She failed too, though her heel nearly made it halfway before the arch caught. Well, Viralia said with a forced smile, perhaps the cold has stiffened their feet. Or the glass has shrunk. Theron didn't respond. He stood. Are there any others in your household? He asked, scanning the room. Viralia paused. For a heartbeat too long. No, she said smoothly. Only my 2 daughters. The rest are staff. I'm afraid none of them would attend a royal ball, of course. From the hallway, behind the kitchen door, Eloin closed her eyes. Her heart thundered. Her chest ached with the weight of silence. She had come this far unseen. To be known now, truly known, would change everything. Are you certain? Theron pressed, his voice low, but unwavering. Viralia's smile thinned. Quite. Just then, a sound broke the tension. A sharp bark. Thistle. The mutt barreled into the room, trailing flour and soot, tongue lolling, tail wagging furiously. And behind him, still barefoot, apron dusted with ash, hair undone, stood Eloin. Every eye turned. Viralia's face paled. "This is Eloan," Myrian whispered, as if her voice had betrayed her before her mind caught up. "She's our," Isolde fumbled, "our scullery maid." Theron turned, slowly. He took in Eloan's face, not the dress or the soot or the apron, but her eyes. The same eyes that had looked up at him beneath lanterns and moonlight. The same smile that had lingered at the edge of memory. "Have I seen you before?" he asked gently. Eloan's voice trembled. "Perhaps." He stepped forward. "May I ask, would you try this?" A guard extended the slipper. Viralia moved suddenly. "That's absurd. She didn't go to any ball. She couldn't have. She has no clothes, no shoes, no invitation." "No permission," Eloan added softly. She looked at the woman who had stolen her home, her name, and her voice. "And yet, I went." She knelt. The slipper slid on as if it had been made for her alone. A perfect fit. Silence. Then Thistle barked again, loudly, as if he had declared a victory. Theron smiled, not with triumph, but with something deeper. Recognition. Relief. Wonder. "It's you," he whispered. "It's really you." Eloan looked up. "I'm not what they expected," she said. "You're more." The rest happened quickly. Viralia stammered, made excuses, grasped at lies, but the guards saw through it. Theron didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He took Eloan's hand and helped her to her feet as if lifting a crown from the ashes. "If you will have me," he said, "I would like to hear the rest of your story." She nodded. And for the first time in years, her voice did not tremble when she replied. "Then I will tell it." Chapter 6, A Crown of Hazel and Stars. Spring had never bloomed so brightly over Ashbrook Manor. On the morning of her wedding, Eloan stood once more beneath the hazel tree, now lush with leaves and delicate white blossoms. Petals drifted gently around her, brushing her shoulders like whispered blessings. Her fingers traced the familiar bark, rough yet warm, humming quietly beneath her touch. It felt like the steady beat of a heart, her mother's, perhaps. Or maybe her own, finally beating freely. "Are you nervous?" came Theron's gentle voice behind her. She turned, smiling softly. Theron stood there, dressed simply, without the grandeur of a prince, though his eyes held more nobility than any crown could give. Behind him, Thistle wagged his tail lazily, sensing peace had come at last. "A little," she admitted. "Mostly grateful." Theron moved forward, brushing a petal from her hair. "Then gratitude is the only thing we need today." He offered his arm, and she took it, stepping away from the shadows of the past, into the sunlight of her future. royal gardens of Eloindel were bathed in gold. Flowers bloomed in colors of sapphire, rose, and pearl, their scents mingling sweetly in the warm breeze. Lanterns hung from silken threads, suspended gently in the air, swaying softly as though stirred by music rather than wind. The guests watched in awe as Eloin walked down the path strewn with petals, each step calm, steady, sure. Her gown woven by royal seamstresses held echoes of moonlight, though simpler now, softer, meant for living rather than dreaming. She had asked for nothing elaborate, nothing heavy. Just something that felt like home. At the altar stood Theron, eyes fixed on her. Not with the formality of a prince awaiting his bride, but with the quiet intensity of a man who had finally found his heart's mirror. Beside him stood King Aldrich, eyes soft with pride, and the courtiers who had once questioned Eloin's origins now watched respectfully, captivated by the quiet strength she wore. When she reached Theron, he reached for her hands and held them gently in his own. The priest spoke softly of promises, of bonds that could not be broken, and words drifted around them like petals on the wind. Yet Eloin heard only her heartbeat, Theron's breath, and the steady hum of joy. "Do you promise to stand by each other?" the priest asked gently, "to see each other clearly, in darkness and in light?" "Always," said Theron softly. Eloin smiled. "Forever." From the corner of her eye, she saw familiar faces, Isolde and Myrian, quieter now, humbled by circumstances. They had come willingly, invited by Eloin herself. Not out of pity, but forgiveness. Lady Virilia was not there. She had chosen exile rather than humility, and Eloin felt no bitterness toward her, only a quiet sadness for a woman who had let greed devour love. As the vows were sealed, the world itself seemed to exhale a breath held since Eloin first planted the seed beneath the hazel tree. The celebration flowed softly, like a river warmed by sunlight. Music, laughter, and whispered congratulations filled the palace halls. As the sun dipped toward evening, Eloin found herself walking alone along the terrace, breathing in the scent of roses and distant lavender. She paused, looking out toward the horizon. She thought of the manor, the attic, the loneliness that had shaped her, and now seemed so far away like echoes from another life. "Do you miss it?" She turned. Theron approached slowly, eyes understanding. "Not the sorrow," she replied softly. "But sometimes, the girl I was, she seems very distant now." Theron reached for her hand. "You carry her within you. Her courage, her dreams. And I see her clearly, every day." She squeezed his hand gently. Together, they stood in silence, breathing in the gentle air of twilight. "Come," he said finally, a soft smile curving his lips. "There's something you should see." Theron led her through winding hallways, out into the gardens again, but deeper now, to a secluded grove at the edge of the palace grounds. Eloin's breath caught when she saw it. A young hazel tree, identical to the one she had left behind, had been carefully planted here. Around it, tiny lanterns glittered, hung gently among its branches. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's yours, Theron said quietly. A piece of your past to nourish your future. Tears filled her eyes, warm and healing. She knelt before it, pressing her hand gently to the soil. Thank you, she murmured, not only to Theron, but to the earth, the sky, and every whispered bit of magic that had brought her here. As night fell, stars emerged one by one, casting their silvery glow around them. And beneath that light, she knew she had finally come home. Long after the guests had left, Eloin stood quietly with Theron, looking up at the endless sky. Stars glittered like distant promises, each holding secrets of journeys yet to come. Tell me something, Theron said softly. Are you happy? She leaned into him, eyes bright. More than I ever dreamed. Then there's only one thing left. He reached into his pocket and drew out a small glass slipper, the very slipper she had left behind. It shimmered softly in his palm, catching starlight. This belongs to you. She took it gently, feeling its delicate weight. It brought me to you. It brought me home. Theron smiled. And now, may you always walk freely in shoes made of your own strength. Eloin lifted the slipper, feeling the cool glass against her palm. With quiet reverence, she placed it at the base of the new hazel tree, where moonlight touched it softly, gently. A gift returned to the magic from whence it came. And with Theron's hand in hers, Eloin turned away from the slipper, from the memories of glass and ashes, and stepped forward, into life new, free, and radiant as dawn. Chapter 7, Echoes Beyond the Horizon. Time passed softly in Eloindel. The days turned into seasons, and seasons melted gently into years. Life with Theron was rich not in gold, not in splendor, but in laughter, understanding, and quiet, steadfast love. Yet, even amidst happiness, shadows from the past sometimes lingered at the edges of Eloin's dreams. One clear autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted lazily through the royal gardens, a rider approached the palace gates. Eloin stood beside Theron, her heart beating faster as she recognized the familiar colors of Ashbrook Manor. The rider dismounted hurriedly and handed over a sealed letter, his expression troubled. Eloin broke the wax seal and unfolded the parchment, heart tightening at the familiar handwriting of Myrian, shakier now, more uncertain. Eloin. I write with heavy heart. Mother has returned, changed but ill. She asks to see you once more before her day's end. Forgiveness, perhaps, is all that's left. We await you, should you choose to return. Myrian. Theron squeezed her hand gently. What does it say? Eloin took a deep breath, trying to quiet the tremor inside her. Virilia has returned. And, she is dying. Theron was quiet for a moment, his eyes filled with understanding. Do you wish to go? Eloin hesitated. Memories rose unbidden, years of loneliness, silent meals, cold stares. Yet deeper beneath lay something gentler, softer, echoes of a woman who once smiled warmly at her father, who had once touched her hair gently before bitterness took root. "Yes," she said finally, voice steady despite the storm within. "I must." The journey back to Ashbrook Manor was quiet, contemplative. Thistle lay at her feet in the carriage, now older and grayer but still loyal, still watchful. Theron held her hand silently, letting her draw comfort from his warmth. When they arrived, the manor felt smaller, shrunken somehow, dimmed by years of neglect. Isolde and Myrian greeted them with lowered eyes, subdued and quiet, leading them upstairs to the grand room where Viralaya rested. The woman in the bed was barely recognizable. Her face was gaunt, skin pale as moonlight, eyes dulled by time and regret. She turned slowly as they entered, and something flickered briefly in her eyes, remorse, perhaps, or sorrow. "Eloan," she whispered, voice thin. "You came." Eloan approached quietly, heart pounding, voice soft. "Yes, Viralaya. I came." A long silence stretched, fragile as spun glass. Viralaya reached weakly toward her. "I do not deserve your kindness." "Perhaps not," Eloan said gently, sitting beside the bed. "But kindness is never truly about deserving." A tear slid slowly down Viralaya's cheek, the first Eloan had ever seen. "I was cruel. Bitter. I blamed you for every wrong in my life. For the loss of love. For loneliness. Yet you blossomed. You found joy." "Yes," Eloan agreed softly. "But I learned forgiveness too." Viralaya closed her eyes, breath trembling. "Then perhaps it's not too late." Eloan reached for her hand, and the older woman grasped it weakly. Warmth flowed between them, not easily, not perfectly, but it was there, quiet and healing. "It is never too late," Eloan murmured, "for kindness. Or forgiveness." Days turned into a week, filled with gentle conversations, quiet healing, and slow reconciliation. Theron stood silently beside her, offering his presence, never intruding, giving Eloan space to navigate the tangled emotions within herself. When the time finally came to leave again, Eloan felt lighter, freer, a weight lifted from her heart. As the carriage rolled away from Ashbrook Manor, she turned to Theron, a quiet peace in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" he asked softly. "For being here. For helping me face my past." Theron smiled, eyes gentle. "Always." That night, beneath a sky alive with stars, Eloan returned once more to the hazel tree in the palace gardens. She touched its bark, tracing the familiar lines. "I never knew," she whispered softly, "how much strength I could hold." Behind her, Theron approached quietly, his presence warm, comforting. You were always strong, he said gently. But now you finally see it. She turned toward him, her eyes shimmering softly in moonlight. I've carried fear, loneliness, even bitterness. But forgiveness was the hardest burden to bear and the sweetest one to release. Theron took her hands gently. Then let that strength guide us both. Together, they stood quietly beneath the stars, hearts finally free of shadows, gazes clear, souls steady. Far above, the stars blinked gently, like quiet guardians, keeping watch over a new chapter, one written not by magic alone, but by courage, compassion, and a strength woven from ashes into starlight. Chapter 8, The Secret of Silveroon Lake. Time flowed softly onward, weaving days into peaceful memories. Eloan settled gently into life beside Theron, cherished as a princess yet grounded as the woman she had always longed to become. Yet beneath the tranquil surface, Eloan sometimes felt a strange restlessness, a quiet yearning she couldn't fully explain. She often wandered through the royal gardens alone, her steps leading her instinctively toward the hazel tree. It had grown stronger, taller, whispering secrets in the breeze, yet lately it seemed to be trying to tell her something more. One early morning, as dawn painted the sky with lavender and gold, a gentle tug woke Eloan from sleep. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb Theron, and moved to the balcony overlooking the gardens. Beneath her, in the faint morning mist, stood a shimmering figure, familiar, ethereal, the spirit woman who had given her the first seed of magic long ago. Eloan hurried downstairs, heart racing, breath quickening. "Why have you come again?" she asked gently, stepping carefully toward the ghostly presence. The spirit smiled softly, eyes wise with secrets of the ages. "Your story is not yet complete, Eloan. Something still waits for you to uncover. Follow your heart to Silveroon Lake. There lies the truth you seek." Then, like a fading dream, the spirit vanished into dawn's embrace. By midday, Eloan stood beside Theron at the palace gates, her gaze steady, resolute. "I must go to Silveroon Lake. There's something there, calling me." Theron did not question her decision. He nodded slowly, understanding the gentle pull of fate. "Then we go together." The journey to Silveroon Lake took them deep into the heart of the ancient woods surrounding Eloandel. Thistle trotted ahead of their horses, nose alert, ears perked with curiosity. When they finally arrived, the lake lay quiet, silver waters shimmering softly beneath a sky laced with afternoon clouds. A profound silence filled the clearing, the kind that hints at hidden things. Eloan stepped carefully toward the water's edge, heart pounding softly with anticipation. "I feel as though I've seen this place before, in dreams or memories long forgotten." Theron joined her, taking her hand. "What do you think lies here?" "I'm not sure," she whispered, eyes scanning the lake. "But I know it's important." Then she saw it, beneath the water, faintly glowing, something shimmered softly. Without hesitation, she stepped into the lake, feeling strangely unafraid. The water was cool but welcoming, whispering secrets as it rippled gently around her ankles. She knelt, reaching beneath the surface, fingers closing around a small, smooth object hidden among the stones. She lifted it carefully. It was another glass slipper, identical to the one she'd left beneath her hazel tree, yet older, delicate, and filled with a strange glow. "What is it?" Theron asked, his voice soft, reverent. "A key," came a soft, familiar voice behind them. Eloan turned sharply. On the shore stood the spirit woman, brighter now, clearer than before, her gaze gentle, patient. "A key to what?" Eloan asked, holding the slipper tenderly. "To your past and to your future," the spirit replied softly. "This slipper belonged to your mother, the first guardian of the hazel magic. It was hidden here for you to find when the time was right." "My mother?" Eloan's voice trembled softly. "She once guarded this magic, as did your grandmother before her. The hazel tree is your legacy, its magic bound by love and courage, meant to be passed down through generations." Eloan's heart swelled, understanding dawning in her eyes. So it was never chance, it was always destiny. The spirit smiled warmly. "You were always meant to find your way here, to discover who you truly are. You must decide now whether to embrace this legacy." Theron gently squeezed Eloan's hand, eyes filled with love and unwavering trust. "Whatever you choose, I stand by your side." Eloan felt a quiet strength rising within her, deep and undeniable. "I choose to embrace it," she said clearly, her voice echoing softly over the waters. "I will carry forward my mother's legacy." As the words left her lips, the lake shimmered softly, silver ripples expanding gently outward. The slipper glowed brightly, dissolving into 1,000 tiny lights drifting slowly upward, surrounding her gently, lovingly. "You have chosen wisely," the spirit whispered, fading slowly into the gathering twilight. "Guard this magic with your heart, and it will guide your family for generations." The light settled gently upon Eloan, seeping softly into her skin. She felt a warmth spreading slowly through her veins, quiet, reassuring, eternal. Theron stood beside her, watching in quiet awe as the magic found its home within her. They returned home as dusk painted the sky in shades of deep violet and rose. The palace greeted them warmly, lanterns glowing gently, soft music drifting through open windows. Later, beneath the comforting branches of the hazel tree, Theron and Eloan stood together in the quiet night, hearts deeply contented, spirits united. "Are you afraid?" Theron asked softly. Eloan smiled gently, leaning her head against his shoulder. "No. I feel peace. This magic is a part of me now, as you are." Theron pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Then we will guard it together." And as stars gently blinked awake above them, Eloan knew that her journey had not ended. It had simply found a deeper path, woven lovingly through history, magic, and heartbeats yet to come. Chapter 9, Shadows at Dawn. Autumn deepened its hold over Eloindel, and with it came whispers of unrest, rumors drifting softly through villages and market squares, carried by wary traders and travelers. Tales of shadows moving unnaturally through the woods, mysterious figures glimpsed at the edges of sight, unsettling dreams haunting those who wandered too close to the ancient forest. Eloin felt the tension keenly, a quiet unease weaving through her thoughts each day. Ever since accepting her mother's legacy at Silveroon Lake, her dreams had sharpened, filling with glimpses of shadows, half-formed warnings she couldn't yet decipher. One crisp evening, Eloin woke abruptly, heart racing. Beside her, Theron stirred, sensing her distress. "Eloin?" he asked softly, reaching gently for her hand. "Another dream?" She nodded slowly, eyes wide, breath uneven. "Something is coming. I don't know what yet, but it feels dark. Restless." Theron pulled her gently closer, his embrace warm, comforting. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." But sleep eluded her. Quietly, she rose, wrapped a cloak around her shoulders, and moved out into the cool night air. Thistle trotted faithfully beside her, alert, protective. She made her way instinctively to the hazel tree, its branches rustling gently as though waiting for her. "What is happening?" she whispered, pressing her palm softly against the bark. The tree trembled slightly beneath her touch, answering her quietly through the rustle of leaves. Slowly, softly, she felt a surge of clarity. The forest was afraid. A quiet voice rose suddenly from the shadows behind her. "It has been many years since this land knew true darkness." Eloin spun quickly. Standing at the edge of the garden was a tall, cloaked figure, face partially hidden beneath a hood. "Who are you?" Eloin asked sharply, stepping protectively in front of Thistle. The figure stepped forward slowly, lifting the hood gently to reveal a woman whose eyes were sharp as obsidian, face framed by silver hair. "I am Morwenna," the woman said quietly, voice calm, controlled, yet edged with tension. "Keeper of the woods beyond Silveroon Lake. And I come with a warning." Eloin's pulse quickened. "A warning?" Morwenna nodded solemnly. "The shadows stir again. A darkness long sealed by your ancestors seeks release. You hold the magic now, Eloin, and only you can stand against it. How do I stop it?" Eloin asked, her voice firm despite the growing dread in her heart. Morwenna stepped closer, eyes fixed intently on Eloin's. "At the heart of the ancient woods lies the Stone of Evernight, a relic of old power. It has been corrupted, its protective magic fading. Only you, daughter of Hazel, can restore it." Eloin steadied herself, feeling the weight of generations settle softly upon her shoulders. "Tell me what I must do." "You must journey to Evernight and purify the stone," Morwenna replied firmly. "But beware, the shadows will test your heart and soul." Eloan nodded slowly, resolve hardening inside her. Then I must leave immediately. No, came Theron's voice suddenly from behind. He approached steadily, eyes determined. Not alone. We go together. Eloan turned, surprise and gratitude softening her expression. Theron met her gaze with unwavering devotion. Your burdens are mine, remember. Morwenna watched silently, nodding with quiet approval. Then journey swiftly. Dawn waits for no one. They departed before sunrise, the first rays of dawn barely touching the horizon as they stepped quietly into the forest. Thistle stayed close, senses sharp, alert to any hint of danger. The deeper they moved into the ancient woods, the thicker the air became, laced with whispers of forgotten memories and ancient magic. Eloan's heartbeat quickened with every step, senses heightened, the legacy of Hazel pulsing quietly within her veins. Hours later, beneath twilight skies heavy with clouds, they reached the heart of the forest, a silent clearing encircled by towering trees, their trunks etched with symbols older than memory. At the clearing's center stood the stone of Evernight, dark as polished obsidian, swirling with shadowy mist. Theron took a steady breath, voice low. Are you ready? Eloan nodded, stepping slowly toward the stone. Each step felt heavier, as if the darkness itself resisted her presence. But the Hazel magic surged softly within her, pushing gently back against the shadows. As she reached the stone, it trembled softly beneath her fingertips. The darkness stirred violently, coiling, resisting. Whispers filled her mind, taunts, doubts, fears from her deepest heart. You're unworthy. You will fail. You belong to the shadows. But through the chaos, Eloan remembered Theron's steady voice, Thistle's quiet loyalty, her mother's whispered love. Strength surged softly, firmly, warmly through her heart. No, she whispered clearly. I belong to myself. And I choose life. Her fingers pressed gently against the stone, Hazel magic surging from her heart through her palms into the darkness. Slowly, gradually, the swirling shadows began to fade, dissolving gently, reluctantly into pure, radiant light. Theron watched in silent awe as the darkness dissipated, leaving the stone glowing softly, purified once more. The clearing filled with gentle peace. Birds softly resumed their songs, the trees whispered gratitude through rustling leaves, and Morwenna appeared once again at the clearing's edge, smiling warmly, eyes gentle with pride. You have done it, she said softly. You've restored balance. Eloan breathed deeply, relief and quiet joy flooding gently through her. She turned toward Theron, eyes bright with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Theron smiled warmly, stepping closer, voice gentle and proud. Your strength comes from your heart, Eloan. I merely remind you it's there. As twilight softened into peaceful evening, Eloan felt a new, deeper strength taking root within her. She had faced darkness, and she had chosen the light not through magic alone, but through courage, love, and the quiet certainty of knowing who she truly was. Together, they left Evernight, hearts lighter, souls steadier, ready to embrace whatever waited ahead, knowing the strength of their bond would guide them through every shadow and dawn to come. Chapter 10, The Heart of Hazel and Fire. After returning from Evernight, peace gently settled over Eloindel once more. Yet Eloin felt changed, as if the shadows she'd faced had left their quiet mark. Even though she'd restored balance, whispers of doubt sometimes brushed against her thoughts, lingering softly at the edges of her mind. Theron noticed this shift and watched her carefully, his heart sensitive to her quiet struggle. One evening, as they sat by the hearth in their private chamber, he finally spoke, voice gentle yet direct. "Eloin," he began softly, taking her hand, "something still troubles you. Please, let me help." Eloin hesitated, eyes fixed on the gentle flames. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I faced the darkness and restored the balance, yet somehow it feels unfinished. As if something still waits beneath it all." Theron squeezed her hand gently. "Then we'll face it together, whatever it is." Just then, the hazel tree in the gardens outside rustled sharply, its leaves whispering urgently. Eloin stood quickly, feeling an inexplicable pull toward it. Together, they moved swiftly outside beneath the starlit sky. At the tree's base waited Morwenna once more, her expression solemn yet hopeful. "Eloin," Morwenna spoke clearly, her voice resonating softly, "the shadows you faced at Evernight were just the beginning. The true heart of darkness dwells in the ruins beyond Ashbrook Manor, hidden beneath the land where your family's legacy began." Eloin's breath quickened softly. "Why has no one spoken of this before?" "Because this darkness is personal," Morwenna replied gently. "It can only be defeated by someone whose heart has truly known both sorrow and love. You must return to Ashbrook. Only then can you heal the roots of shadow forever." Eloin looked at Theron, eyes heavy with understanding. "Then we must go." The journey back to Ashbrook felt strangely quiet, every mile a step into memory, every breath heavier with anticipation. Thistle rode with them silently, sensing the gravity of this final task. When they arrived, the manor stood silent, empty, yet somehow waiting, watching. Beyond the estate, hidden among tangled trees, lay ruins Eloin had never fully explored, a place whispered of in fearful stories, a place her father had always avoided. At the ruin's heart stood a broken stone archway, engraved with faded symbols. As they approached, shadows coiled restlessly, whispering threats, taunting her softly. "Welcome home." Eloin stepped forward resolutely, her voice strong. "I'm not afraid anymore." Theron stayed close, guarding her silently. Morwenna remained at a respectful distance, quietly watching over. Inside the ruins, darkness gathered thickly, swirling fiercely. At the center stood an ancient statue carved in the likeness of a woman, arms outstretched, eyes blank yet sorrowful. "Your ancestor," Morwenna explained quietly. She once bound the shadows here to protect the land. But bitterness, sorrow, and resentment fed this darkness over generations, giving it strength. The darkness twisted, forming a shadowy reflection of Eloan herself. It stepped forward, voice dripping bitterness and grief. You carry our pain. Abandon love, embrace what you truly are. Eloan's heart tightened. She recognized those emotions, the loneliness, sorrow, bitterness that had haunted her childhood. But then she felt Theron's quiet presence beside her, Thistle's loyalty, Morwenna's watchful wisdom. Strength surged quietly within her heart. No, Eloan said firmly, facing her shadow self calmly. Pain shaped me, but it does not define me. Love defines me. Courage defines me. The shadows twisted angrily. You are nothing without pain. I am everything because of it, she replied gently. I chose forgiveness. I chose love. The darkness surged, angry, desperate. But Eloan stood firmly, heart steady, voice clear. I release you, she said softly, compassion filling her voice. Return to peace. Return to the earth. As she spoke, Hazel magic flowed softly from her heart, entwining gently around the statue, washing away shadows like gentle rain. Slowly, the darkness softened, dissolving quietly, leaving only gentle silence behind. Theron stepped closer, eyes gentle with awe. You did it? No, Eloan said softly, her voice steady yet humble. We did. They returned quietly to Ashbrook Manor. As they approached, something felt different. Lighter. Free. The manor no longer felt burdened by past sorrows. Inside, a gentle warmth greeted them, familiar yet entirely new. Myrian and Isolde stood waiting, faces softer now, eyes gentler. We felt it, Myrian whispered quietly. Something changed. Forgiveness changed it, Eloan replied softly. The shadows are gone. For the first time, Isolde stepped forward quietly, her voice hesitant. We never apologized, Eloan, for how we treated you. Eloan smiled gently, stepping forward, reaching out softly to embrace her. You are forgiven. Tears flowed quietly, warmly. Peace filled Ashbrook, a gentle healing decades overdue. That evening, Eloan and Theron sat quietly beneath the hazel tree, stars bright above them. Morwenna stood softly nearby, eyes peaceful. Your legacy is complete, Morwenna said warmly. You've healed the past and ensured the future. Eloan leaned into Theron, eyes bright with quiet joy. Yet our story feels as if it's just beginning. Theron kissed her forehead gently. Because it is. Morwenna smiled gently, fading softly into moonlight. Then let the future be written with courage, kindness, and unending love. As stars shone quietly, Eloan understood deeply, completely, profoundly that darkness was never fully vanquished, only balanced by love and courage. And beneath the quiet gaze of endless stars, Eloan and Theron stepped forward into the new dawn, ready to embrace whatever awaited, hearts steady, souls forever intertwined by Hazel and fire. Chapter 11, The Trials of the Heart. Months passed, and Eloan and Theron settled into a life of quiet joy. The shadows that had once haunted their every step seemed to dissipate, leaving only the steady warmth of their love and shared purpose. Eloan, now fully embracing her role as the guardian of Hazel, had brought balance not only to the land but to her own heart. Yet, despite the peace, a restlessness had begun to stir within Eloan. The hazel tree in the royal gardens, her constant companion, felt different. No longer simply a symbol of her mother's legacy, it now pulsed with a deeper, more mysterious magic, as if it were trying to tell her something she couldn't yet understand. One evening, as autumn's chill began to edge its way into the air, Eloan stood beneath the tree, her fingers tracing the rough bark. The wind whispered softly around her, carrying with it the scent of far-off places, of ancient woods and untold stories. "Theron," she whispered, her voice trailing off. He approached silently, standing beside her without a word, knowing instinctively that something was shifting within her. He placed his hand on her shoulder, warm and steady. "I feel something," she said softly, turning to face him. "Like the magic of the land is calling me to something more, something I haven't yet discovered." Theron's eyes softened with understanding. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Before Eloan could respond, the ground beneath them trembled gently, a low hum vibrating through the earth. The hazel tree shimmered with an ethereal glow, its branches bending as though bowing in recognition of something ancient. Suddenly, the air around them thickened, and a soft voice, like a distant murmur, filled the space between them. "Eloan," it called, soft and insistent. "You must journey beyond the veil. Only then will you understand the full depth of your power." Eloan's heart pounded in her chest. She glanced at Theron, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "What does it mean?" she asked, her voice steady despite the rising tide of uncertainty within her. Before Theron could answer, the tree's branches bent even lower, and from the center of the trunk, a soft light poured forth a portal, shimmering with golden energy. "The veil," the voice continued, "lies beyond the forest, where the world's roots meet the unseen realms. Only there will you unlock the final secret of Hazel's magic." Eloan's pulse quickened, her body alive with both fear and anticipation. The portal beckoned, but the unknown loomed on the other side. "I must go," she said firmly, her resolve setting like stone. "This is the next step. The next trial." Theron reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Then I go with you." The journey beyond the veil was not one of distance but of inner transformation. Eloan and Theron walked through the forest together, the air heavy with magic, each step taking them deeper into a realm that felt both familiar and completely foreign. The trees here whispered in a language Elowen couldn't understand, and the ground beneath her feet felt soft and alive, as though it had a heartbeat of its own. As they moved deeper into the heart of the woods, the atmosphere grew thicker, the shadows longer. A sense of unease began to creep over Elowen. The path ahead seemed to twist, fading in and out of sight, as if the world itself were uncertain of their presence. "Do you feel it?" Elowen asked quietly, her voice tinged with apprehension. Theron nodded, his eyes scanning the darkness ahead. "Yes. Something is watching us." Suddenly, the air shifted, and a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a woman, but not like any Elowen had seen before. Her skin shimmered like silver, her eyes glowing with a pale, unearthly light. She moved with fluid grace, her presence both commanding and calming. "Elowen," the woman said, her voice a soft melody, yet carrying an undeniable authority. "I am the guardian of the veil. You have come seeking the final trial, but are you truly ready?" Elowen stood tall, her heart steady despite the fear stirring inside her. "I am ready. I seek the truth of my power." The guardian's gaze softened, a faint smile touching her lips. "Then you must face the trial of your heart. Only by confronting your deepest fears will you unlock the full strength of Hazel's magic." The shadows around them deepened, and Elowen's vision blurred. Suddenly, she found herself standing alone in a vast, empty space, cold, silent, and dark. She felt a weight pressing on her chest, suffocating her. The air was thick with memories of loss, of pain, of everything she had ever been afraid of facing. From the darkness, a voice emerged, her own. "You are nothing," the voice sneered. "You have always been weak. You were never meant to be more than a shadow." Elowen's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stand tall. "I am not a shadow. I am the light." The darkness swirled around her, but she did not back down. The fear that had once haunted her, the doubt that had clung to her like a second skin, now began to unravel. She faced it, embraced it, and let it dissolve into the light of her magic. The shadows faded, and the air lightened. The empty space before her began to fill with the soft glow of the hazel tree, its branches stretching wide, wrapping her in warmth and light. The guardian of the veil appeared beside her, her smile now one of approval. "You have passed the trial, Elowen. You have embraced your true strength." Theron stepped forward, his hand reaching for hers. "You did it," he said softly, eyes full of admiration. Elowen looked around, her heart light with the weight of victory. "We did it?" The guardian nodded. "The path ahead is now clear. The full depth of your power has been unlocked. You are now the true guardian of Hazel, and the realm is safe once more." With that, the portal behind them shimmered brightly, and Elowen and Theron stepped back into the world they knew, forever changed, their hearts full of courage and strength. Chapter 12, The Flame of the Forgotten Path. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Eloan and Theron had returned to their peaceful life in Eloandel. Their hearts were lighter, their love stronger than ever, yet something stirred uneasily beneath the surface. Even though Eloan had passed the trials, the weight of her newfound power felt like both a gift and a burden. Her connection to the magic of Hazel had grown deeper, but with it came a sense of responsibility, one she was still learning to fully understand. The kingdom had prospered in her absence, the fields and forests rich with life, the people flourishing under the calm rule of Theron. But in the corners of the land, whispers began to spread, rumors of a new darkness, one that even the most powerful magic could not easily banish. One evening, as Eloan and Theron sat quietly in the royal gardens, a cold wind swept through, stirring the branches of the hazel tree. Eloan's senses tingled with foreboding, her heart racing as she stood up quickly, the familiar hum of magic flowing through her veins. "What is it?" Theron asked, noticing the change in her posture. "I don't know," Eloan whispered, her voice tense. "Something feels wrong. The magic, it's restless again." Before Theron could respond, a soft voice like a gentle breeze whispered through the air. "Eloan. Eloan Ashbrook." Her heart skipped. She turned swiftly toward the voice, her breath catching in her throat. The voice came from the center of the garden, where the hazel tree stood. Its branches began to shake, and the air around it shimmered with an otherworldly light. From within the tree's glowing depths, a figure slowly emerged, a tall, cloaked figure with eyes that gleamed with ancient wisdom. Eloan stepped forward cautiously, her hand outstretched. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady, but filled with awe and curiosity. "I am Isolde," the figure said, her voice soft and echoing, like the winds of time itself. "I have been waiting for you." Eloan's brow furrowed. "Isolde? But, you..." The figure nodded, the hood of her cloak falling back to reveal the face of Eloan's own mother, though her skin was pale and her eyes were distant. "I am your mother's spirit, Eloan. I have come to guide you through the final step of your journey." Eloan took a deep breath, her mind racing. "The final step? What do you mean?" "Darkness stirs once more, Eloan," the spirit said, her voice full of both sorrow and warning. "The magic of Hazel is powerful, but it is incomplete. There is a path hidden from you, one that leads to the heart of the forgotten world. You must travel there, to the Temple of the Veil, where the last of the Hazel magic lies hidden." Theron stepped forward, protective. "And what is this temple? What lies within it?" "The temple holds the final piece of Hazel's power," the spirit explained, her gaze unwavering. "It is the source of all life, but it is also the source of great destruction. The darkness that has followed you, Eloan, is a result of the magic's imbalance. You must face the truth there, and only then can the final piece be restored." Eloan's mind spun with the weight of her mother's words. She had thought that the trials were over, that the balance had been restored, but now it seemed as though the true challenge had only just begun. "I will go," Eloan said firmly, her voice filled with resolve. "I will restore the magic, whatever it takes." The spirit nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "I know you will, my daughter. But beware, the path to the temple is fraught with peril. There will be tests unlike any you have faced before." Eloan turned to Theron, her eyes filled with determination. "We must go together." The journey to the Temple of the Veil was unlike any they had undertaken before. The path was not marked by roads or signs, but by ancient whispers carried on the wind. The forest grew denser, darker, the trees ancient and twisted as if they were alive, watching them. Eloan felt the weight of the magic around her, pulsating like a heartbeat, both comforting and unnerving. She could feel the power of Hazel stirring within her, but it was faint, as if the land itself was holding its breath. As they ventured deeper into the forest, strange creatures began to appear at the edges of their vision, shadowy figures that skittered just out of sight, their eyes glowing faintly. Every step felt heavier, as though the very air was thick with anticipation. One night, as they camped beneath the canopy of ancient trees, the darkness seemed to press in around them. A distant howl echoed through the forest, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. "What's happening?" Theron asked, his voice low with concern. "The magic," Eloan whispered, her hand trembling as she felt the pulse of it grow stronger. "It's drawing something closer. We need to move quickly." The very next morning, they pushed forward with urgency, following the unseen path until they reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous stone structure, covered in vines and moss. It was the Temple of the Veil. Eloan stepped forward, her heart pounding. She could feel the power radiating from the temple, a raw energy that called to her, urging her to enter. As she crossed the threshold, the air shifted, and the world seemed to fall silent. The temple's interior was vast and empty, its stone walls covered in intricate carvings of long-forgotten symbols. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested an ancient crystal, glowing faintly with an inner light. Eloan approached cautiously, her heart racing. As she reached for the crystal, a voice filled the air, a voice like her own, but darker, more hollow. "You have come too far, Eloan," the voice whispered. "The magic is not yours to control." The ground shook violently, and the walls of the temple began to crumble. Shadows swirled around them, and Eloan felt the magic inside her surge uncontrollably. "You must let go," the voice continued, now echoing around the temple. "The power of Hazel will consume you if you do not surrender it." Eloan gritted her teeth, holding onto the crystal with all her strength. "I will not surrender," she said, her voice firm. "I am the guardian of Hazel. This is my destiny." The shadows seemed to recoil at her words, but the voice only laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. "Destiny," the voice sneered. "You are nothing but a vessel, Eloan. The magic was never meant to be wielded by mortals." but Eloan's resolve only strengthened. With a fierce cry, she channeled the full force of Hazel's power through her body, letting the light of the crystal fill her, illuminating the dark corners of the temple. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the cracks of the crumbling stone, until they were nothing but a whisper in the wind. The crystal glowed brightly, its light steady and pure. Eloan held it aloft, feeling the magic settle within her, its power now under her control. The temple fell silent once more, the shadows vanquished, the magic restored. Eloan stood tall, her heart steady, her mind clear. "I did it," she whispered, breathless. Theron approached her, his eyes filled with pride and awe. "We did it," he corrected gently. Eloan smiled softly, feeling the weight of her journey finally lifting. The magic of Hazel was hers to protect, and now, with Theron by her side, she knew that together they would guard it for generations to come. Chapter 13, The Eclipse of Light. The journey had been long, and Eloan's heart was heavy with both relief and the weight of the responsibility she now carried. The magic of Hazel had been restored. The shadows had been driven back. But something stirred within her, still a sense of unease, a nagging feeling that the peace she had fought for might not be as lasting as she hoped. After returning from the Temple of the Veil, Eloan and Theron had returned to the royal palace, where life had slowly resumed its rhythms. The gardens bloomed, the fields flourished, and the people of Eloandel rejoiced in the restoration of balance. But the magic within Eloan felt different now. Stronger, yes, but also more unpredictable. It was one such evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the royal gardens, that Eloan first sensed the change. She was walking beneath the hazel tree when she felt it, a shift in the air, a subtle distortion that hummed just beneath her skin. "Theron," she called softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Theron, who had been standing at the edge of the garden, watching her with a soft smile, turned toward her. His expression changed when he saw the look on her face, a mixture of concern and confusion. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. "The magic," Eloan said, her eyes searching the fading light. "Something is wrong. It's changing. I can feel it. The power is growing, but it's becoming more unstable." Theron stepped forward, concern flooding his gaze. "What do you mean? Is it dangerous?" "I don't know," she replied, her brow furrowing. "But there's something more, something hidden beneath the surface of the magic I've unlocked. It feels like a shadow within the light, like it's being pulled somewhere else." Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air, followed by a distant rumble like thunder. Eloan spun around, her senses on high alert. Above the horizon, the moon began to rise, but something was wrong. The sky darkened, not with the peaceful nightfall, but with an unnatural shadow that stretched across the heavens. The moon itself seemed to dim, its glow flickering like a dying flame. "No," Eloan whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "It's happening again." Theron took her hand, his grip firm. "We need to find out what this is. Now." Together, they raced toward the palace's highest tower, where they could see the full sky above. As they climbed, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. Reaching the tower, they both stood frozen, gazing up at the sky as the moon was swallowed by an eclipse. The shadows that had once been banished by Eloan's magic returned, swirling ominously across the land, darkening the world beneath them. From the shadows, a voice emerged deep, ancient, and filled with malice. "You thought you could banish me forever, Eloan," the voice hissed, echoing through the air. "But the magic of Hazel is mine. It was always mine." Eloan's heart raced as she recognized the voice. It was the same voice that had whispered to her during the trials, the darkness that had tried to consume her, to turn her from the light. She stepped forward, her eyes blazing with defiance. "No," she said firmly. "I won't let you take it." The voice laughed, dark and hollow, reverberating through the space. "You cannot stop what has already begun, child. The magic of Hazel is the key to unlocking what lies beyond this world. You cannot keep it contained forever." Eloan felt the power inside her surge, the magic of Hazel flickering like a flame in the wind. But she knew that this power was not enough. Not yet. There was still more to be done. The dark force that had been lurking within the shadows was not just a remnant of the past, it was something far more dangerous. She turned to Theron, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We need to go to the source. To the heart of the forest. The temple, it's the only place that can stop this." Theron nodded, his face grim. "Then let's go. Together." The forest beyond Eloandel was alive with whispers as Eloan and Theron ventured deep into its heart. The trees seemed to close in around them, their branches twisted like skeletal hands reaching for the sky. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the once peaceful forest now felt like a labyrinth of darkness, its magic twisting and turning in ways that made Eloan's skin crawl. As they walked, the shadows grew more oppressive, the air growing colder with each step. The path before them was obscured, the trees leaning inward, blocking the way forward. "We're close," Eloan said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. "The heart of the forest. It's just beyond this grove." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The trees shook violently, their leaves rustling as if in a storm. From the shadows, dark figures began to emerge, twisted, malevolent shapes that seemed to be made of pure shadow, their eyes glowing like embers. Eloan raised her hands, her heart filled with the power of Hazel, but it felt different now. The magic was being pulled in multiple directions, and she struggled to maintain control. "Eloan, behind you!" Theron shouted. Eloan spun around just in time to see a dark figure lunging toward her. She stepped back, instinctively raising her hand to defend herself. The magic of Hazel surged through her, but it was weaker now, fighting against the darkness that surrounded them. The figure reached out, its shadowy fingers brushing against her skin, sending a wave of cold through her body. She gasped, struggling to maintain her hold on the magic. "You cannot win," the figure hissed. "The shadows are eternal. And you are mine." Suddenly, Theron was there, his sword drawn, striking at the dark figure with precision. The shadow recoiled, retreating back into the forest. "You're not alone," Theron said firmly, standing beside her. Elowen nodded, her breath shaky but steadying as the dark figure disappeared into the trees. "No, I'm not." Together, they pressed forward, toward the heart of the forest, toward the temple that held the answers they so desperately needed. The ruins of the temple stood before them, its ancient stones cracked and overgrown with vines. The entrance was dark, the air heavy with the weight of untold secrets. As Elowen and Theron stepped inside, the temperature dropped, and the ground seemed to pulse beneath their feet, as if the very earth was alive. At the center of the temple stood an altar, its surface covered in ancient symbols. Elowen approached it cautiously, her heart beating faster with every step. The magic of Hazel surged inside her, urging her forward. "This is where it began," she whispered. "This is where it will end." As her hand touched the altar, the air around them shimmered. The shadows seemed to coalesce, gathering into a swirling mass before her. And from within the mass, a figure emerged, a figure she recognized all too well. "You should have stayed away, Elowen," the voice echoed, the same voice that had haunted her for so long. "Now you will face the true cost of your magic." Chapter 14, The Shadow's Embrace. Elowen stood at the altar within the ancient ruins of the temple, the weight of centuries pressing down upon her. The shadows had gathered, coiling like living smoke, filling the air with a suffocating, ancient presence. The air was thick with the sound of whispers, dark, insidious whispers that seemed to seep into her very thoughts. Beside her, Theron's grip on his sword tightened, his eyes scanning the shadows warily. His presence beside her, steady and unwavering, gave Elowen the courage she so desperately needed. "You should have stayed away, Elowen," the voice echoed from the depths of the shadow. "But now that you're here, you will see the true cost of your power." The figure that emerged from the mass of darkness was tall, shrouded in a cloak woven from the very shadows that filled the temple. Its face was obscured, but its presence radiated a dark, unholy energy. Elowen's breath hitched, and her heart pounded in her chest. She knew who it was, she could feel it in her bones. "You," she whispered, a chill running down her spine. "You are the one who has been lurking behind the magic. The one who tried to consume me." The figure chuckled, a cold, hollow sound that reverberated through the temple's walls. "I am much more than that, Elowen. I am the darkness that has always been a part of you. You were never meant to control the magic of Hazel. It was mine to wield. It always has been." The shadows began to swirl around the figure, their tendrils reaching toward Elowen, caressing her skin like cold fingers. She could feel the magic within her recoil, the bond to Hazel pulsing in opposition to the encroaching darkness. "No," she said firmly, stepping forward. "I will not let you take it. Not again. You have no choice, child," the figure sneered. "Your magic is weak. It will not survive me." The shadows surged toward her, but before they could touch her, Theron stepped in front of her, raising his sword to block the darkness. His voice was calm, filled with determination. "You will not harm her," he said, his eyes locked on the shadowy figure. "We will fight together." The shadow figure laughed again, a sound filled with contempt. "How quaint. You think you can stop me? The power you face is beyond anything you can comprehend." Eloan felt the surge of her own power, Hazel's magic rising within her, a familiar warmth that fought against the cold shadows. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the air as she focused on the magic of the tree, the magic of life and light. But the figure was faster. With a wave of its hand, the shadows lashed out, knocking Theron to the ground and sending him crashing into the temple's stone walls. Eloan cried out, her heart splitting in two, but the shadow did not stop. It pressed forward, its dark form growing stronger with every passing second. "You are nothing but a vessel," the figure taunted. "The magic is meant to serve me. And now, you will give it to me." Eloan's vision blurred with tears of frustration and fear, but then, a soft voice so faint it almost wasn't there spoke inside her mind. "You are not alone." It was the spirit of her mother. Eloan closed her eyes and took a deep breath, gathering her strength. "I am not alone," she repeated, her voice shaking but steady. "Theron is with me. The magic of Hazel is with me. I am the guardian." The shadows paused, a strange, discordant tremor passing through them. "You are not the guardian. You are merely a tool," the figure sneered. But Eloan's eyes blazed with a fierce light, the magic of Hazel surging through her. "I am the guardian of Hazel. I am the one who chooses how to wield this power." With those words, the magic inside her exploded outward, a burst of light so bright that the shadows recoiled, shrieking in pain. The very air seemed to crackle with energy as Eloan reached for the heart of Hazel's power, drawing it up through her body. The figure snarled, its form beginning to dissipate as Eloan's magic enveloped it. The temple trembled, the walls shaking as the battle between light and shadow reached its peak. "You will never win," the figure hissed, its form flickering and fading. "I am eternal. I will always return." Eloan felt the magic of Hazel flood her, her heart burning with determination. "Then I will fight forever." With a final surge of power, the shadow was torn apart, its remnants dissipating into the air like smoke, leaving only the faintest trace of darkness behind. The temple fell silent, the oppressive weight of the shadow lifting from the air. Eloan's breath came in ragged gasps as she stood, her hands still crackling with magic, but her body trembling with exhaustion. Theron slowly rose from the stone floor, his face bruised but filled with relief as he approached her, his eyes filled with pride. "You did it?" Elowen smiled weakly, her energy draining from her. "We did it? Together." The haze of darkness lifted fully, and Elowen felt a sense of peace settle over her. The balance had been restored, not just in the world, but within herself. She had faced the darkness, both the one outside and the one within, and she had chosen the light. But as the dust settled, a new thought crept into her mind, one that filled her with both hope and uncertainty. "What now?" she whispered, her voice soft. Theron stood beside her, his hand on hers, his heart steady and unwavering. "Now, we rebuild. Together. And we protect this world we've fought for." Chapter 15, The Dawn of a New Realm. The forest was alive with the sounds of nature, the wind gently rustling through the leaves as Elowen stood beneath the hazel tree, her fingers brushing against its bark. It had become a symbol of her journey, a reminder of all that she had overcome. Yet, as she felt the familiar pulse of the tree's magic, she couldn't shake the sense that something was still missing. Theron joined her, standing silently at her side. He had always been her rock, the one constant in a world that seemed ever-changing. His eyes met hers, and without a word, he knew. The weight of the journey, of the battles they had fought, still lingered between them. "What happens now?" Elowen asked softly, her voice filled with uncertainty. "The shadows are gone, but the magic. It feels different. It's stronger, but there's a sense of imbalance, like something else is stirring beneath the surface." Theron placed his hand gently on hers. "You've done what you needed to do, Elowen. Together, we've restored the balance. But I can see it in your eyes. There's more to this than we can see. The magic of Hazel. It's not just a gift, it's a responsibility." Elowen nodded, her gaze shifting to the horizon. The world was quiet, peaceful even, but she could feel the stirring of something greater. Something that neither she nor Theron could fully understand yet. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, a tall, cloaked woman with silver hair that shimmered in the fading light. Elowen's heart skipped a beat as the woman approached, her presence unmistakable. "Morwenna," Elowen said, her voice a mix of surprise and recognition. The ancient guardian of the forest stood before them, her eyes glowing softly with wisdom and knowing. "The magic has been restored, Elowen. But there are still many truths yet to be revealed. The path you've walked has only just begun." Theron stepped forward, his protective instincts kicking in. "What do you mean? What truths are we still facing?" Morwenna's gaze shifted between the two of them, her expression filled with both pride and sorrow. "The power of Hazel is not simply a force of light, it is tied to the very foundation of this world. It is what sustains life, but it also holds the power to tear it all apart." Elowen frowned, trying to grasp the weight of Morwenna's words. What do we need to do? Is there something more we need to fix? Morwenna's eyes softened, but there was a sharpness to her words. You must understand, Eloan. The magic of Hazel has a darker side, a side that is bound to the very heart of the world. It is a force of creation, but also destruction. It can heal, but it can also corrupt. The imbalance you feel is not just internal, it's external, and it threatens all that you have fought to protect. A shiver ran down Eloan's spine as the weight of Morwenna's words settled over her. The magic she had once believed to be a simple gift was far more complex than she had ever imagined. And with that realization came the understanding that the road ahead would be far more difficult than anything she had faced before. How do we stop it? Eloan asked, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. Morwenna's gaze softened. You cannot stop it, Eloan. The power of Hazel is an eternal cycle, it cannot be controlled. But you can guide it. You can restore balance, but it will require more than just strength and magic. It will require sacrifice. Eloan's heart raced as she processed the gravity of Morwenna's words. Sacrifice. What do you mean? The ancient guardian stepped closer, her eyes piercing through Eloan. To restore balance, you must be willing to let go of something you hold dear. The magic of Hazel is rooted in the very fabric of life, and in order to maintain that balance, you must release the power you've unlocked. Let it flow through you, but do not cling to it. If you do, it will consume you. Eloan's heart tightened in her chest. She had fought so hard to gain control of the magic, to wield it and protect those she loved. The idea of giving it up, of letting go of the power that had defined her journey, was unthinkable. And if I don't? Eloan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Morwenna's gaze turned sorrowful. Then the magic will consume you, and everything you love will be lost. The darkness that you defeated will return, stronger than ever. The very fabric of the world will unravel, and all that you fought for will be in vain. The weight of Morwenna's words hung in the air like a storm, and for the first time, Eloan felt truly afraid. The power of Hazel that had once been her ally was now a looming threat, one that she could not control. It was a gift and a curse, and the only way forward was to release it. As the evening wore on, Eloan stood by the hazel tree, her heart heavy with the burden of her decision. The magic pulsed within her, a constant reminder of what she had to give up. But in the distance, she saw Theron standing silently, watching her with unwavering support. I don't know if I can do this, Eloan whispered, her voice trembling. Theron walked over to her, his hand finding hers. You don't have to do it alone, Eloan. Whatever you choose, we face it together. We always have. Eloan looked up at him, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. She knew, deep down, that this was the path she had to walk. And she also knew that whatever sacrifice she made, she would not be making it alone. I will do it, she said softly, her voice filled with quiet resolve. I will release the magic, and I will protect the world we've built. With a final glance at Theron, she turned toward the hazel tree, her hands glowing with the soft light of Hazel's magic. Slowly, she began to release the power she had so carefully guarded, letting it flow back into the earth, into the world where it belonged. As the last of the magic left her body, the air seemed to still, the world holding its breath. The shadows that had threatened to consume them faded, and the land seemed to breathe easier, lighter, as if it had been freed from a great weight. The world was quiet for a long moment, and when Eloan finally opened her eyes, she felt a sense of peace settle within her. The magic was gone, but the world was safe, and the balance had been restored. Theron stepped forward, his eyes filled with pride and love. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with awe. Eloan smiled, feeling the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. "We did it," she corrected softly. Together, they stood beneath the hazel tree, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, the world bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: no matter what came next, they would face it together. Chapter 16, The Forgotten War. The night after Eloan released the magic, a deep silence fell over Eloandel. The world seemed to hold its breath, the magic of Hazel now flowing freely through the earth, but no longer bound to one person. Eloan stood beneath the hazel tree, feeling the soft pulse of the earth beneath her feet, but now without the weight of the power that had once been her burden. Theron stood beside her, his eyes reflecting the same mixture of pride and concern that had been present since the day they first met. Though the battle against the darkness had been won, a new, unseen enemy loomed on the horizon. "It's done," Eloan said softly, her voice a whisper on the wind. "The magic is free, and the world is safe, for now." Theron nodded, but there was an unease in his expression. "There's something I don't understand, Eloan. The magic, the power you released, it's more than just protection. It's a force that has shaped the world for centuries. What happens now? What is it that we don't see?" Eloan turned to face him, her heart heavy with uncertainty. "I don't know. The magic has always been a part of the land, but it's been tied to something older, something that even I don't fully understand. I can feel it, Theron. There's a force beneath the surface, a lingering darkness that's yet to be uncovered." Before Theron could respond, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low, echoing rumble filled the air. The hazel tree groaned, its branches twisting and swaying as though something deep within it was shifting. "Eloan," a voice called from the shadows. Eloan's heart raced as she turned toward the sound. The familiar figure of Morwenna emerged from the forest, her face grim, her eyes filled with urgency. "What's happening?" Eloan asked, stepping forward. Morwenna's gaze shifted to the ground, her expression troubled. "The release of Hazel's magic has caused a shift in the balance. The magic of life is free, but it has disturbed something ancient beneath the earth. A war, long forgotten, is stirring once again." Eloan's breath caught in her throat. "A war? But I thought the battle was over. Morwenna nodded gravely. The war was fought long before your time, Eloan. It was a war between the forces of life and death, a battle for control of the magic that binds this world together. The magic of Hazel was born from this conflict, but it was sealed away, its power hidden, until you released it. Theron stepped forward, his hand on Eloan's shoulder. Who are we fighting, Morwenna? What is this ancient war? Morwenna's eyes darkened. The enemy is older than any force you've faced before. It is the darkness that lives at the very heart of the world, the power that seeks to consume everything. It is the force of entropy, the opposite of life. And it has begun to stir once more. Eloan's heart sank. What can we do? How do we stop it? Morwenna's gaze softened with sadness. There is only one way to stop it, Eloan. You must journey to the underworld, the realm where life and death meet, and confront the source of the darkness. Only there can you seal it away for good. The decision was made quickly, and Eloan and Theron set off without hesitation. The underworld lay at the edge of the known world, a place where few dared to venture. It was said to be a realm of endless shadows, where the spirits of the dead wandered in eternal silence, and the very air was thick with sorrow. The journey was treacherous. The path led them through desolate lands, where the air felt heavy with ancient magic. Eloan could feel the presence of the darkness, growing stronger with every step they took. As they crossed the threshold of the underworld, the air became thick and cold. The ground beneath their feet was soft and shifting, like sand, and the shadows that surrounded them seemed to move, swirling in the corners of their vision. Stay close, Eloan whispered, her voice barely audible. We don't know what lies ahead. Theron nodded, his hand never leaving hers. Together, they moved forward, their footsteps echoing in the silence that stretched around them. As they ventured deeper into the underworld, the darkness seemed to close in around them. The very air grew thick with a sense of dread, as though the land itself was holding its breath. Finally, they reached the heart of the underworld, an immense cavern, dark and foreboding, at the center of which stood a massive, shadowy figure. It was a being unlike anything Eloan had ever seen, its form shifting and undulating in the darkness, its eyes glowing with a cold, malevolent light. You dare to enter my domain? The figure boomed, its voice like thunder. You, who have released the magic that binds this world together. Eloan stood tall, her heart steady despite the overwhelming force before her. I have come to stop you. I will not allow you to undo all that we have fought for. The shadowy figure laughed, a sound that reverberated through the cavern. You think you can defeat me, child? I am the darkness that feeds the world. Without me, there is no life. I am the end of all things. Theron drew his sword, stepping in front of Eloan. We will not let you destroy everything we built. The figure snarled, its form growing larger, the darkness surging around it. You cannot stop what is inevitable. This world is dying, and I will return it to the nothingness it was always meant to be. Eloan raised her hands, feeling the magic of Hazel stir within her. She had faced the darkness before, but this time, it was different. This was not just a shadow, it was the source of all shadows, the force that threatened to unravel everything. You may be the end of all things, Eloan said, her voice strong, but I am the beginning of something new. With that, she called upon the full strength of the magic within her, channeling it through her body, through her very soul. The light of Hazel surged outward, filling the cavern with blinding radiance. The figure shrieked, its form writhing in the light. No. You cannot. I am eternal. But Eloan's magic did not waver. The light grew stronger, pushing back the darkness, until the shadowy figure was reduced to nothing but a wisp, dissipating into the air. The cavern fell silent, the oppressive weight of the darkness lifting. Eloan stood, breathless but unbroken, as the last remnants of the shadow faded into the air. Theron stepped forward, his eyes filled with admiration and relief. You did it, Eloan. You stopped it? Eloan smiled softly, her body exhausted but her spirit stronger than ever. We did it. Together. The underworld was quiet now, its darkness vanished. The magic of Hazel had won the day once again, but Eloan knew that this battle was just one of many. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with Theron by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. Chapter 17, The Tides of Fate. The silence that followed their victory in the underworld hung heavy in the air. For a brief moment, the world felt at peace. The dark force that had threatened to engulf the land was gone, vanquished by Eloan's strength and the power of Hazel's magic. But even as the echoes of their triumph faded, Eloan couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered in the shadows. The days following the battle were filled with quiet reflection. The palace of Eloandel had returned to its peaceful state, its gardens blooming with life, its people safe. Yet Eloan, despite the victory, felt unsettled. The magic of Hazel, now fully released, pulsed through her veins, its power stronger than ever. But it was not just the magic that unsettled her, it was the truth that had yet to be uncovered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the land, Eloan found herself standing beneath the hazel tree once more. Its branches rustled softly in the evening breeze, its roots deep within the earth, a living testament to the magic that had shaped her journey. Theron joined her, his presence a comforting reminder of all they had accomplished together. He stood silently at her side, sensing the turmoil within her. "What's on your mind?" he asked softly, his voice steady and calm. Eloan turned to him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "I thought the battle was over," she said quietly. "I thought we had restored the balance. But something still feels wrong. The magic of Hazel, the darkness, it's not just about control. It's about something much older, much more powerful than we've realized." Theron's brow furrowed in concern. What do you mean? I felt it, Eloan continued, her voice trembling slightly. The magic is changing. It's growing stronger, but it's also becoming more unpredictable. I've been having visions, dreams of a storm, of something stirring beneath the earth. I fear that the darkness we've defeated was only a fragment of something far more dangerous. Theron placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding her. We've faced unimaginable odds and come out victorious. If something else is waiting for us, we will face it together. You're not alone in this, Eloan. Eloan nodded, but the weight of her uncertainty still lingered in her heart. She had always known that her journey was never just about defeating the shadows, it was about understanding the deeper, more ancient forces that shaped the world. The magic of Hazel was not a simple force to be wielded, it was a living, breathing entity, tied to the very fabric of life and death itself. That night, as Eloan lay in bed, her mind raced with unanswered questions. She could feel the pulse of Hazel's magic within her, its power resonating with her heartbeat. It was as though the magic had become a part of her very soul. But what did it truly mean? What was the cost of wielding such power? As the moon rose high in the sky, a soft knock on her chamber door roused her from her restless thoughts. Eloan, came the voice of Morwenna, her tone urgent. There's something you need to see. Eloan sat up, her heart racing. She quickly dressed and made her way to the palace gardens, where Morwenna was waiting beneath the ancient tree. What's happened? Eloan asked, her voice filled with concern. Morwenna looked grim, her eyes filled with a sorrowful understanding. It's begun. The magic of Hazel has awakened something far older than we realized. The balance we fought for is already starting to shift again. Eloan's pulse quickened as she felt the ground beneath her feet tremble. The air around them grew thick with an energy she couldn't fully understand. It was as though the earth itself was alive, reacting to something deep within its core. What do we do? Eloan asked, her voice firm despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Morwenna's gaze darkened. We must return to the heart of the forest. To the place where it all began. The journey to the heart of the forest was unlike any Eloan had undertaken before. The land around them seemed to shift, the trees closing in as if they were watching their every move. The air grew heavier with each step, filled with the scent of earth and ancient magic. Eloan could feel the magic of Hazel surging inside her, responding to the disturbance in the earth. It was as if the very fabric of the world was being torn apart, the balance unraveling. As they approached the heart of the forest, the ground beneath them cracked, revealing a dark abyss, swirling with shadows. A deep, unnatural chill seeped from the depths of the crack, spreading through the air like a poison. This is it, Morwenna said softly, her voice filled with dread. The source of the disturbance lies beneath the earth. You must descend into the depths to find the truth. Eloan stood at the edge of the abyss, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the power of Hazel calling to her, urging her to confront whatever lay below. She knew that this was the final test, the trial that would determine the fate of the world. Theron stepped beside her, his presence a steadying force. "We'll face this together," he said, his voice unwavering. "Whatever it takes." Eloan nodded, her resolve hardening. "Together." With one last glance at Theron, Eloan stepped forward, her magic flaring brightly around her as she descended into the abyss. The darkness below was suffocating, the air thick with ancient power. Eloan could feel the ground beneath her feet shifting, the very earth alive with the pulse of dark magic. As she moved deeper into the depths, the shadows seemed to reach for her, their tendrils curling around her body, pulling at her mind. The voices of the past whispered in her ears, taunting her with memories of fear and doubt. "You're not strong enough," the voices hissed. "You'll never defeat the darkness." Eloan clenched her fists, her heart steadying with each breath. She had faced this darkness before. She had overcome the shadows that had once tried to consume her. And she would do it again. "I am stronger than you think," Eloan whispered, her voice resolute. "I am Hazel's guardian." With a surge of magic, Eloan unleashed the full power of Hazel, the light shining bright in the darkness. The shadows recoiled, their form disintegrating in the face of her strength. And at the heart of the abyss, she found what she had feared, the source of the disturbance. A dark, ancient force that had lain dormant for centuries, waiting for the right moment to awaken. "You cannot stop me," the voice boomed, echoing through the depths of the earth. "I am the end of all things." Eloan stepped forward, her magic surrounding her in a radiant halo. "I am the beginning of something new," she said, her voice filled with quiet strength. With a final, blinding burst of light, the darkness was consumed, the power of Hazel filling the abyss and sealing the shadow away forever. As Eloan emerged from the depths, she felt the balance of the world shift once more, but this time, it was different. The darkness had been sealed, and the magic of Hazel had been restored. The earth itself seemed to breathe easier, the land filled with life and light. Theron was waiting for her, his eyes filled with pride and love. "You did it," he said softly. Eloan smiled, her heart full of peace. "We did it," she replied. The world was safe once more, and together, Eloan and Theron stood ready to face whatever the future held. Chapter 18, The Price of Power. The air was thick with the scent of earth and leaves as Eloan and Theron walked through the royal gardens, their footsteps soft against the cobblestone path. The world had been restored, or so they thought. The balance had been secured, the darkness sealed away, and yet Eloan could still feel the pull of something deeper, a force she couldn't fully understand. The magic of Hazel surged within her, no longer a burden, but a part of her. It pulsed softly, a gentle reminder of the responsibility that came with her newfound power. Yet there were days when it felt too much, when the weight of it threatened to pull her under. "It's different now," Eloan said quietly, breaking the silence that had settled between them. Her eyes were distant, focused on the horizon. The magic, I can feel it. But something is off. It's as though the land is still recovering from the war, and the price we paid is still echoing in the air. Theron glanced at her, concern flickering in his eyes. You've done so much, Eloan. The world is safe. We've faced the darkness together, and you've restored balance. You've given so much. You need to rest. I can't rest, Eloan replied softly. I feel it, Theron. The land isn't healing like it should. It's as though the magic has left a scar, something deeper than what we can see. Theron stepped closer, his hand finding hers. We'll face it together. We always have. But Eloan wasn't so sure. The magic of Hazel, which had once been her ally, now felt like a force she was struggling to control. The healing process, the restoration of balance, it all felt like a fragile construct, one that could easily be shattered by the weight of power too great to bear. Later that evening, as the moon rose high above the palace, Eloan sat beneath the hazel tree, her fingers brushing the bark. She had always felt a connection to this tree, a bond forged through the magic of her mother, and later, through her own actions. It was here, under its branches, that she had first felt the weight of the power coursing through her. And it was here, she hoped, she would find the answers she sought. A soft rustling broke the silence, and a familiar figure stepped into the garden. Morwenna, the ancient guardian of the forest, approached slowly, her eyes filled with wisdom and sorrow. Eloan, she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of untold years. There is more you must know. The darkness you sealed. It is not gone. It has only retreated for now. The magic of Hazel, the magic you've embraced, it is part of a much larger cycle. One that cannot be undone by force alone. Eloan stood, her heart racing. What do you mean? I thought we had sealed it away, that the balance had been restored. Morwenna nodded, but there was a sadness in her eyes. You have sealed away the immediate threat. But the magic of Hazel is tied to the very fabric of this world. And like all power, it has a price. Eloan felt her stomach twist with uncertainty. A price? What kind of price? Morwenna took a deep breath, her gaze distant. The power of Hazel cannot be controlled indefinitely. It is a force of creation and destruction, and as with all powerful forces, it must be balanced. There must be an exchange. You cannot continue to wield this power without giving something of equal value. Eloan's pulse quickened. What is the exchange? What do I have to give? The magic has already taken something from you, Morwenna said gently. The magic of Hazel has changed you, Eloan. It has made you more than you were, but it has also made you something else. The balance you have restored is fragile. The price of that balance is your own life force. Your very connection to the magic is drawing on your life, and over time, it will consume you. Eloan's breath caught in her throat. No. I can't. Morwenna raised a hand, silencing her. You have done what was necessary, Eloan. But now you must make a choice. You can release the magic, return the balance to the earth, and live out the rest of your life in peace, free from the weight of the power. Or you can continue to wield it, but at the cost of your own life. Eloan stood frozen, the words echoing in her mind like a haunting refrain. The magic of Hazel, the very force she had come to embrace, was now threatening to take everything from her. And she had to choose between her life and the world she had fought to protect. The days that followed were filled with quiet contemplation. Eloan knew that the choice she had to make was not one that could be taken lightly. She had always fought for the balance of the world, but at what cost? Was it worth sacrificing herself for the greater good? Was her life truly worth more than the world she had saved? Theron remained by her side, unwavering, offering support and love. He knew the weight of the decision she faced, and yet, he knew that whatever she chose, they would face it together. Eloan, he said one night, as they sat beneath the hazel tree, the stars sparkling above them. You've given everything for this world. You've fought the darkness and restored balance. But you don't have to carry this burden alone. We are stronger together. Whatever you decide, we'll face it as one. Eloan turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. But what if I'm not strong enough? What if the magic is too much for me to control? Theron took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. Then we will find another way. Together. Always together. Eloan closed her eyes, feeling the magic of Hazel pulsing softly within her. She could feel it, the power, the strength, the weight of it. But she also knew that she could not carry it alone. The price was too great. The magic had already taken so much from her, and if she continued down this path, it would take even more. I will release it, she whispered, her voice steady despite the tears that welled in her eyes. I will give the magic back to the earth. It is the only way. Theron nodded, his eyes filled with quiet pride. Then I will be here with you, every step of the way. The following morning, Eloan and Theron returned to the heart of the forest, to the place where it all began, the ancient grove where the magic of Hazel had first taken root. As Eloan stood beneath the hazel tree, she closed her eyes and reached out with her magic, feeling it pulse within her. She had come so far, and now, she would let go. The air around her shimmered as the magic of Hazel flowed from her, returning to the earth. The trees around her seemed to sway in response, their branches rustling with the energy of life. Eloan felt the weight of the magic lift from her shoulders, and for the first time in years, she felt free. As the last of the magic left her, the world seemed to breathe easier. The sky above cleared, and the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the land. Theron stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You saved us all. Elowen smiled, her heart full. We did it. Together. Chapter 19, The Return of the Veil. The days that followed Elowen's choice were filled with both peace and uncertainty. The magic of Hazel had been returned to the earth, and the world seemed to breathe easier. The balance had been restored, but something still felt incomplete, like a song without its final note. The land was healing, but so much had been lost in the battle, the lives of those who had fallen, the sacrifices made, and the unknown cost of wielding such power. Elowen and Theron had retreated to the royal palace, seeking solace in the quiet moments they had earned. They spent their days walking through the gardens, their hearts heavy but grateful for the peace they had fought for. Yet even in these moments of stillness, Elowen couldn't shake the feeling that something still lurked in the distance, something unresolved. The power she had released was not just a force of creation. It was also a force of change, and with that change came the potential for new threats. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Elowen felt the familiar pulse of magic deep within her. It was not the overwhelming surge of power she had once felt, but a quiet echo and undercurrent that reminded her of the magic she had once carried. Theron noticed the shift in her expression. What is it? He asked gently, his voice full of concern. Elowen paused, her fingers brushing the edge of her cup, her thoughts racing. I can feel it, Theron. The magic, the veil, it's not fully gone. There's still something I don't understand. The land is healing, but it's not whole yet. Theron leaned forward, his brow furrowing. Are you saying the magic is still affecting you? That the darkness hasn't been fully sealed away? I don't know, Elowen admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I feel it in my bones. The veil, the barrier between this world and the realm beyond, it's still weak. And if it's not fully closed, something might slip through. Theron's face tightened with resolve. Then we'll fix it. We'll find out what's causing this weakness and seal it once and for all. Elowen nodded, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. She had given up the magic of Hazel, yet it still lingered within her. She had chosen to release the power, but now it felt as though that power was slipping through the cracks, threatening to escape. The next day, Elowen and Theron set off once again, this time not to protect the land from darkness, but to uncover the final truth of Hazel's magic. Their journey took them deep into the forest, to a place Elowen had only heard of in whispered stories, the Veil. The Veil was an ancient boundary that separated the world of the living from the realm of spirits. It was a place where the energies of life and death mingled, where the magic of Hazel had once been bound, and where the true source of its power lay hidden. It was said that the veil could only be crossed by those who were strong enough to face the balance of both creation and destruction. As they reached the edge of the forest, the air grew heavier, the trees darker. The ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Elowen's heart quickened, her senses alert to the strange energy that hummed around them. We're close, Elowen said quietly, her voice filled with both fear and anticipation. "This is it?" Theron squeezed her hand gently, his eyes filled with unwavering support. "Whatever happens, we're in this together." They moved forward, their footsteps soft on the damp earth, until they reached a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone archway, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change as they looked at it. The archway glowed faintly, pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. Eloan stepped forward, her heart pounding. "This is it?" The veil. The moment she crossed the threshold, the world around them seemed to shimmer, the air thick with magic. Eloan felt the weight of the power pressing down on her, the magic of Hazel surging through her body once again. But this time, it felt different. It was no longer hers to control. It was something larger, something beyond her understanding. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the light. Eloan froze, her breath catching in her throat. The figure was tall, cloaked in darkness, their features obscured by shadows. But Eloan could feel the power radiating from them, a force so ancient and powerful that it made her soul tremble. "You have come, Eloan," the figure said, their voice like thunder, shaking the very air around them. "But you are too late." Eloan's heart skipped a beat. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear that clung to her. The figure stepped forward, their presence overwhelming. "I am the veil," the figure replied, their voice filled with a dark, ancient power. "I am the boundary between life and death, the keeper of all that was, is, and will be. And I have waited for this moment." "What do you want?" Eloan asked, her voice filled with defiance. The figure's lips curled into a cruel smile. "I want nothing but what is mine." The magic of Hazel was never meant to be free. It was meant to stay hidden, bound within the earth, its power sealed away. But you, Eloan, you have broken that seal. You have opened the gate between worlds. And now, the balance is lost. Eloan's heart raced as the figure's words sank in. The magic of Hazel had been more than just a force of life. It was a key to unlocking the boundaries between realms. And now, the veil was weakening, the balance between life and death slipping away. "How do I stop this?" Eloan demanded, her voice filled with urgency. "How do I fix the damage I've caused?" The veil's shadowy form seemed to flicker, and for a moment, Eloan saw a glimpse of something familiar, a face she had seen before, a woman with silver hair and dark, knowing eyes. Her mother. "You cannot fix it," the veil whispered. "The damage has been done. The gate between realms is open, and the shadows will return. It is too late." Eloan felt a coldness wash over her, but deep inside, she could feel the faintest flicker of hope. She had faced the darkness before, and she would do it again. "It's never too late," Eloan said firmly, stepping forward. "I'll close the gate. I'll restore the balance, no matter what it costs. The veil let out a low laugh, the sound vibrating through the ground. You cannot stop what has already begun. But Eloan's resolve was unshakable. She raised her hands, the magic of Hazel flowing through her once again. This time, it wasn't just the magic of life, it was the magic of the veil itself. She had come to understand it, to embrace it. And now, she would use it to seal the darkness away forever. Chapter 20, The Light Beyond the Veil. The air around them seemed to pulse with ancient magic, the atmosphere thick with power as Eloan stood before the veil. Its shadowy form flickered and writhed, the very fabric of the world trembling beneath the weight of its presence. She could feel the magic of Hazel coursing through her veins, but this was different. This was no longer just the magic of life. It was something deeper, something more dangerous. The veil was no mere barrier between worlds, it was the heart of all things, the space where life and death met in perfect equilibrium. And now, it was unraveling. Theron stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder, offering silent strength. He knew this moment would come, knew that Eloan would have to face the very heart of the darkness that had followed her for so long. But he also knew that she was more than capable of overcoming it. She had already defied the odds, restored the balance of Hazel, and come to terms with the power within her. Now, she was about to do what no one else had ever done. She would confront the veil itself. Eloan, Morwenna's voice echoed softly in her mind. You must act quickly. The balance you fought for is crumbling. Only you can restore it. Eloan closed her eyes, taking a steadying breath. She could feel the weight of the world pressing against her chest, the burden of power, of sacrifice, and of responsibility. The magic of Hazel had brought her to this moment, this defining moment, but it was up to her to wield it correctly. The veil twisted, its dark form reaching out, the air crackling with the energy of both life and death. The shadowy figure, still hauntingly familiar, its form flickering like smoke, was waiting. Eloan's heart pounded as the figure's cold voice filled the air. You cannot defeat me, Eloan, it whispered, its voice like ice. I am the end of all things. Without me, there is no life. There is no purpose. Eloan's eyes blazed with determination. That's where you're wrong, she said firmly. Without life, there is nothing. The balance isn't about one force overpowering the other, it's about harmony. Life and death, creation and destruction together. The figure sneered, its form growing larger, more menacing. You think you can understand the true nature of balance? You, who have only just begun to learn the magic you control. You cannot hold what you do not understand. Eloan raised her hands, drawing on the magic within her. She could feel the light of Hazel swirling inside her, mixing with the energies of the veil itself. She wasn't just wielding the magic of life anymore, she was becoming part of it, part of everything, both light and dark. I may not understand everything, Eloan said, her voice steady, but I know that love, light, and sacrifice are the things that give life meaning. I choose balance. I choose to live, not to let the darkness consume everything. The air shimmered with energy as Elowen pushed forward, her hands glowing with bright, radiant light. She focused, channeling the magic of Hazel into the veil, pouring her heart and soul into the spell. The veil resisted, its darkness surging against her light, but Elowen stood firm. Her mind cleared, her heart steady as the power she held began to weave through the fabric of existence, restoring balance. The shadows cried out in pain, their form flickering, unraveling. Slowly, the veil began to fade, its power diminishing as Elowen's light expanded. The darkness that had once threatened to consume everything slowly dissolved, the power of Hazel now fully under her control binding the worlds together once again. With one final surge of magic, Elowen released the last of the energy, sealing the veil back in its rightful place. The darkness was gone, and in its place was peace. The world around them settled. The weight of the magic lifted from Elowen's shoulders, leaving her breathless but free. The land, the trees, the very air seemed to sigh with relief. The balance had been restored, and the veil, though ever present, was no longer a threat. Theron stepped forward, his eyes filled with awe and love. "You did it, Elowen," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Elowen smiled softly, her heart full. "We did it. Together." As they stood there, the sky above them cleared, the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. For the first time in a long while, Elowen felt the world was at peace, not because the darkness was gone, but because she had faced it, embraced it, and restored the balance. The magic of Hazel was now a part of the world, not a force to be controlled, but a force to be respected. Back in Elowendal, life began to return to normal. The people celebrated their victory, but they also honored the sacrifices that had been made. Elowen and Theron, though weary from their journey, stood together at the heart of the kingdom, knowing that their love, their courage, and their strength had carried them through. As they stood before the people, Elowen knew that her journey was far from over. The magic of Hazel would always be a part of her, but now, she understood it better. She had learned to embrace both its light and its darkness, its beauty and its danger. And with Theron by her side, she was ready to face whatever the future held. The hazel tree, which had once been a symbol of magic and power, now stood as a symbol of balance and life. Its branches stretched high into the sky, its leaves whispering in the wind. Elowen knew that the world was not perfect, but it was hers to protect. And with that, the story of Hazel, of light and dark, of life and death, had come full circle. Together, they would face the future, whatever it may bring, armed with the knowledge that the greatest power was not in controlling magic, but in understanding and embracing the delicate balance of life itself.